Hello again, and welcome to Winning with the Wrangler at Dick Powell's Leadership Corner, brought to you by Earth, Wind, Fire, Water Training and Development, where our passion is building leaders of today and tomorrow. Leaders, the information in today's program has been gathered from many different places and many different people. So if you hear yourself in our conversation today, please remember it is not all about you. Now, today we're going to be looking at something that I believe is quite important. As a leader, we often are called to, have a meeting and put it together and find out just what we're doing there. Now, I'm going to give you a quote, so to get you started, just understand where we're coming from. The quote goes like this: "Many people confuse lengthy discussions with being effective." And that was Bruce Rhodes. Now, the reason he said that is just like a meeting I attended yesterday. It went on and on and on and on, but no one ever stopped to question what was going on, and there was no agenda, and there just wasn't really things happening. So let's take a look at what I would call death by meetings. You see, it has been said that there have been more deaths at the boardroom than any other place within the corporation. Sometimes people die there in their chair and the person doesn't even know it, they're dead, until the end of the meeting. What we say accounts for only 7% of what is believed. The way we say it accounts for 38% of what is believed, and what others see accounts for 55% of what is believed. Now, you need to really know those facts and figures because this is really how the people listen to you. So I'm going to repeat one more time. What we say accounts for only 7% of what is believed. The way we say it accounts for 38% of what is believed, and what others see accounts for 55% of what is believed. Now, that's kind of hard to take, isn't it? But we as leaders need to know exactly what's going on in the minds of the people there in that meeting room. The other part is this: communication is 93% nonverbal. And only 7% verbal. You see, it is how we hold ourselves. It's how the actions of our body, it's how we move, it's how we really convey whether we want to be there or not, or if we have something that's important, or we're trying to really give information, or we're covering something up. You know what? It is really true that people can read you far quicker from your body language than they can from your words. So just understand where we're coming from on this discussion today. Now, every meeting, I don't care whether it's for profit, nonprofit, large corporation, small company, little bitty group, team, I'll tell you what, even sometimes here at our household, we have these meetings, and you know what? Sometimes, always, needs to have some kind of agenda. Now, these agendas need to go out to the populace of the folks who are going to be asked to appear at this meeting, and it needs to go out at least 48 hours prior to. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, it's going to act as a reminder. Hey, we've got a meeting in 2 days. We need to make sure that you're ready to rock and roll. It also gives a way for giving additional information to those who will be attending. This is what we're going to talk about, and this is what's going to happen. This is why you need to be there. It's also a way to make sure participants have had discussions about the topics and are ready to participate. It provides a guideline with a timeline. It tells the place, the time, and the date. It acknowledges the start and end time. Now let me go back through that just a little bit. It's a way of an additional information. Now, there's going to be times when all of a sudden we're having a meeting and we've done some things, we've got some things on the calendar, but something pops up that needs to be discussed or needs to be worked on. And so we can add that in there so we can get people thinking about it, doing the research and being prepared to really execute and also participate. You know, it gives participants time to have outside discussions between groups, between people, building bridges between one another, finding out ways to work together, and it brings a way to participate for everyone in the discussion situation of the meeting. Now, leaders, at this point, I'm going to give you a little hint. If you're running a meeting and you've been doing all the talking, this is not an effective meeting. If you're doing all the talking and you've never asked a question, or no one's ever asked a question of you, there's a problem. If people are not asking questions or people are not involved in participating, we've got a situation. Either we've got they're afraid to ask a question or participate on a fear of doing something incorrect, or they've had an experience where they've been put down and put down and put down, and so they've just given up. So if you've got a totally quiet audience, leaders, I'm going to tell you, you need to do some investigative work and find out what is going on. Not at the meeting. This isn't the time or place. The time is going to be outside and doing some investigating. Maybe you just didn't realize you were overrunning everyone. It could be. All right, let's get back to the basics here. Start on time. Now, this is really important. Yesterday, the meeting was supposed to start at 11 a.m. Well, we didn't get started till noon, and then there was other piece, so we really didn't get started until just about 12:15. Now, there you go. Didn't start on time. Already set the tone. When you don't start on time, it tells people that you don't recognize that their time is important, that they're important, and it sends the wrong message. So if you've got people sitting around the boardroom or in a large group just waiting for you to get started, we've got a problem. But it's doable. It's fixable. You can correct this situation by starting on time. You see, each meeting must have an importance to the gathered. Starting on time shows respect for the time of the individual participant, and it shows the urgency of that time that we're going to spend together. I've heard many people say, gee, I just hate going to meetings. I just hate it because it seems like we sit there and don't do anything. This is because we're not getting started on time and we're sending the wrong message from the first moment that we gather. All right, let's take a look a little farther here now. Each meeting must have a reason. People just aren't going to come and sit and listen to you palaver and talk about things that you believe are important. Here's the deal. In the agenda, it must state, or it should state, must is not a good word, I imagine. Really, I'm going to encourage you to do this, though. State a reason, state a purpose, and really state an outcome of what this meeting should attain. You see, this is really important. When I go to a meeting, I often ask, why am I here? What is the reason? What's the outcome that we're looking for? You see, so decisions on projects. Now, that's a pretty good thing to think about. New ideas. Maybe we'll do some brainstorming. Let's have the reports. Again, the reports should have already been handed in prior to the agenda going out so they can go out with the agenda. People can already read the reports and they're ready to take action if there's a vote needed. You see, reports are previous action items with results. What are the results? You see, I believe that's the biggest part of it. That's kind of accountability situation, but it also gives people a reason to be there to find out what's going on, how it's going on, and really who's doing what. The reports also give us a place to put communication. Now, communication really needs to happen ongoing, not just at the meeting. It needs to happen, afterwards, before, in between, and that way we can start building bridges to find out what everyone's doing. How can you help them? How can they help you? What is it that we're working towards? What is our vision? What is our mission? Is this our strategy? Is it working? It helps us all to convey that situation. And when we're not doing that, quite frankly, it just takes away from, boy, now we're going to have to listen to another report being read for the next 5 minutes, and boy, is that boring. When if it was sent to me with the agenda, I could have already read that. I could have already made some notes, and if I had some questions, I could write them down and be prepared to participate in that conversation. Reports also give us a place to state unfinished business, new business, action items, plans, and the value that we're going to provide on each one of those situations. You see, this thing of reports, I often tell you, they need to happen before, during, and after the meeting. But the report itself needs to be short, sweet, over, because the main part of it could have already been written and ready to send out with the agenda. That's a good thing to put in your notes to remember. It just has that, now everyone has all the same information, and not waiting for someone to hand out some papers at a board meeting. Or at a large meeting like yesterday, it was 50-something people, and they were trying to hand out papers at the middle of it. It just didn't work. So think about it. Now, in the meeting, there's going to be a place for everyone to have a moment. Some place where they get to speak. Now, I'm not going to say it needs to be a long time. It can be short and sweet. It could be just say, hey, I'm Dick Powell, and you know what? Our project of putting horses on the moon is full steam ahead. We've got the horses. We've got the space capital, and we're ready to go. Simple as that. You see? And the next part could be, and this is what I need your help on. Now we have a place to actually get some action items, don't we? But the speaking part of it is going to be so important. So leaders, I'm going to encourage you to make sure that you allow time for each person to have even a few moments to speak. This way they're involved. There's a reason for them to be there. It's a participant part of the whole meeting. You've got to get everyone a part. If everyone is sitting in that chair and not talking, not speaking, not adding something to the conversation, not adding something to the meeting, I have to ask you, why are they there? This is when you're going to need, as the leader, to take some time afterwards and really start doing some one-on-one conversations. Are you afraid to speak up? Just, or do you have no ideas of what we're doing? Do you really need to be here? I tell you what, there's a problem when no one speaks up. Or, like yesterday, in a large organization where there's 50-some people in the meeting, and only 3 people, 3 out of 50-something, 3 had the courage to stand and ask a question. It's a problem. So make sure that if you have a lot of people, you can limit the time. Tell them just the facts, no big long stories. If they're a story, it needs to be short and informative, and it needs to make sure that you're limiting redundant comments. So that's where the leader of the meeting really starts to help orchestrate what's going on. It sounds pretty simple, but it's a lot harder to do on a large project. I'm going to encourage you, though, to really work towards this. Now, as the meeting comes to a close, and quite frankly, I'm an hour or less meeting guy. I believe everything can happen is an hour or less. It doesn't need to go on and on. If it's going to be a long meeting, you need to let them know in the agenda, in the start and stop time, that this is going to be a working meeting, and we're going to be working on some long-term opportunities, and it's going to be more than 1 hour. I believe that that's just common courtesy. But that's the part of the agenda that you can really tell people, hey, you need to put this in your plan. You know, maybe we're going to take all afternoon and work as a team to get some goals and strategies for our organization. You see, that's why agenda is so important. That's why it's important it goes out early. That's why the reports are inside the agenda so important. Now, after this whole meeting starts to wrap up, you need to do something that's very important. First of all, during the wrap up, it needs to go through the assignments. Who's doing what, when, where, how. And those action items need to be assigned a person or a team with a date that it needs to be completed. Now, I'm going to also encourage that there's a budget that is wrapped inside there so that we each know what's going on and how things are going to be paid for. If you're doing a presentation, you're writing the report, all that needs to go in there. Here's our budget. This is what we've spent. This is what we've got to work with. People want to know. They really do. And when people don't get all the information or you dance around the answer, I'll tell you what happens. They will make up their own answers, and they will take and say them as many people as they can because they don't trust you. And trust, when it's broken, is hard to get back. Now, so after you've assigned the people, you've teams, you've got a date when it's going to be completed, you've got the budget added in there. Here's the deal. There needs to be some person that's the accountable person. Accountable person. You know, the person that's going to do the follow-up. Who's going to send out the notes? How soon is it going to be there? The biggest thing that I'm going to encourage is all leaders, if you're the person running the meeting, you're the MC, you're the director, thank everyone for their time and participation. You know, for people that struggle with meetings, they need to be felt like that, hey, it was worth me coming to. It was worth my time. They respected my time. Now, I want you to also announce when, where, and the time and date of the next meeting. This is important. Unless it's an emergency, we should have these on the calendar set, no problem. But we're always going to have that reminder, hey, the next one's 2 weeks from now on Thursday at 2 p.m. Make sure you take and bring your coffee cup. We're going to be here a couple hours to work on this next program. Just write it all down or, convey it. But here's the deal. Close on time. If you say it's going to be an hour, you've got to take and finish it and wrap it up in an hour. You've got to really say to people, we appreciate your time and effort and participation in this meeting. We're thankful that you've come ready to take and rock and roll and become into this world. Now, after the meeting's over, everybody's walked out of the room. You as the leader might have some of your close circle. Evaluate the meeting. Did it go well? Did it not go well? Was there something we needed to cover that we didn't? Is there something we should have touched on that we didn't? Is there something we touched on we should have never touched on? Did I act appropriately? Did I convey the right message? All those parts and pieces to evaluate how did the meeting go. People tell me all the time, well, Dick, hey, it was a meeting. That was over and done. We had somebody take notes, and they're going to take and type them up and send them out. And you know what? The evaluation is going to be the most important part. because there's going to be things in your meeting that's going to happen. There's going to be life that happens. Someone gets sick, someone gets ill, someone has a baby, someone, on vacation, somebody's not there, somebody gets upset about something. There's going to be things that are going to happen because this is life. And in life, things happen. So again, we're going to always encourage to take and use MARF, maintain absolute rigid flexibility. But I'm going to tell you, it is a true fact that people will respect you and your time, you and your meeting, if it is run in an appropriate manner. And they feel needed and wanted in that time zone. So really, what I'm saying is, if what Bruce Rhodes said kind of clicks a bell in you, that many people confuse lengthy discussions with being effective, if that clicks a bell with you, I want you to think about it. How do I shorten my words? How do I shorten how I'm presenting? And leaders, many times I've seen meetings fall apart as the leader walks to the front of the table. You see, it's your demeanor that will set the tone. It's the message you're going to send before you get to speak. I remember a long time ago, I was in a large meeting and everyone was sitting around the boardroom, and we assumed that the company was being sold and bought by someone else, and what's what we all assumed. We didn't know, we were all guessing, but we had a pretty good, lock on it. And the owner comes in and, head down, shoulders bent, and this guy with a fancy suit behind him, he says, we sold the company. This is your new owner. And by the way, none of you have a job today. Kind of set the tone of that meeting. That guy stood up there and said, hey, I'm going to have you all stay and train your new replacements. I'm going to tell you what, it didn't go over very big. But what I'm trying to tell you is this is just such an important piece of life. This communication style that we call going to a meeting. Staff meeting. Boy, if that's not a word, like staff infection, we're going to have a meeting. How about we're just going to the leadership team is going to get together and have an organizational meeting. That's why the agenda needs to go out. It needs to have a time and date on it. It needs to have a start and stop time. It needs to have all the reports bundled with it so you have them ahead of time before the meeting. So if you have a question, you could actually call someone in charge of that situation who's accountable for it and ask a question or two, maybe get it solved before you even go to the meeting. You see how important that is? Now, where this really falls down, I have to tell you, is in nonprofits. Because, well, we're not getting paid. We're all just volunteers. And I say that in tongue-in-cheek, just volunteers, because sometimes my volunteer work takes more hours than my work. So think about that. How are we sharing what's going on with the person next to us who is accountable for something else? How can we help them? How can they help us? Well, they don't know if they don't know. And if you don't tell them, if you don't convey it in a report, you don't relay it in a verbal, you don't meet them for lunch, you don't have this conversation of communication, I'm going to tell you what, meetings are a waste if you don't do those things. Just getting together and listening to someone stand up and speak for 45 minutes and then saying, hey, is there any questions? And everybody's bored to death and they get 3 questions. Actually, they only got 2. And finally, just before they closed up the meeting, they got the 3rd one. There's a problem. And the problem is the folks leading the meeting. That would be us, leaders, I would imagine. Now, I did work at a place for quite a while that I enjoyed going to those meetings because the gentleman who was the boss or the owner, he always sat at the table and always had one of us run the meeting. And we were, we took turns doing it. What it did is it made a cohesive group. And it made the cohesive group because now we learned that we could actually talk and share things to and from one another with our reports and with a quick phone call or something else in between the meetings. We didn't have to just wait our turn on the agenda that we had to speak. And while we were there, we didn't really care about what anybody else was doing because we weren't involved. Leaders, I'm trying to encourage you to say that meetings can be the greatest thing we ever do. We just need to put a little thought into it beforehand. And that's this whole thing of doing the research. That's putting the agenda together, doing the research, and then getting prepared, checking in with everyone, how we doing, what we doing, and are we ready to go to this meeting before we execute the actual meeting itself. Again, after the meeting's over, I'm going to encourage you to stop and say thank you to everyone who was there. Thank them for coming out for the day. Thank them for coming and spending the time. Thank them for participating so that they know that this is a safe place to have open, honest discussion. And that's a huge piece. But thank them for their time. Thank them for their participation. Thank them for getting involved. And thank them for helping to run and operate your organization. It's so important just to say those two words, thank you. Close on time, and then take just 4 or 5 minutes to do an evaluation. What went well, what didn't go well, what could have we added, what do we need to subtract, and do it right then and there. Don't wait. When you wait to do this evaluation of your meeting or an event, I'll tell you what, things kind of get messed up in our minds a little bit, and we forget exactly what happened. So do it right then. Don't take the time and go, well, I'll do that in 2 or 3 days. I'll do an evaluation how the meeting went, because you're not going to get it. Okay? Meetings can be the most valuable piece of your organization. Profit, nonprofit, doesn't matter. What matters is how we handle it and who is going to actually run the meeting. How's that's being handled? Who is it? Who's accountable? To make sure the agenda goes out, to make sure they've gathered all the information, all the reports, and had them ready to rock and roll to go out early. This is important. And you know what? Here's what I'm going to guarantee you. If you do this, if you follow these simple rules, you will not only have effective meetings, but you'll have effective participation from not just 1 or 2, 3 people. You'll have participation from everyone. And that is the most important piece of any operation. Make sure you get the notes out within those 24-hour time periods. Get them out as fast as you can so everybody can look over and say, that's not what I said, and they can do something about it. Well, I see our time is coming to a close, and I have to tell you, I've really enjoyed today sharing with you because I believe this is so important, this thing, meetings. And I know I titled it Death by Meeting, but, it doesn't have to be. It can be growth. It can be an exciting time. So on behalf of myself, Dick Powell, and the whole Leadership Corner team, I want to say thank you. Thank you for being a part of today's program. Thank you for coming in and learning something different. Now, if you have any questions or comments on today's program, hey, don't hesitate. Give me a call. 727-422-1833. 727-422-1833. Send me an email, dick@ewfw.org. dick@ewfw.org. Go to the website, spend some time, take a look around. There's a place to send me a note there. But you know what? When you're really ready to have me come out and do a keynote speech on leadership and accountability, to do a workshop with your group on leadership and accountability, all you have to do is give us a phone call or get on email, but you need to do it quick. We book up very quickly over the year. Well, Till next time, this is DW the Wrangler saying, ride hard, ride fast.